Good afternoon from New York. The guy is not quite as tired as in the last video. I'd like to thank Big Linux and Linux channel creators for their help, and the also the great educational videos on YouTube. And the subject of today is understanding the disease of MAGA, the anti-empathy takeover of the Republican Party. Yes. As you know, the philosophy of intermind communication is largely centered around forms of empathy. And the blockage of those things from damaged faith and love is seen as a spiritual illness. What's the virtues that empathy brings to us? Now, the cause of the MAGA poison is, of course, the worship of symbols of need rather than the realization of need. And just satisfying the need is healthy, whereas symbolic need cannot be fulfilled. It never reaches a satiation point. So the beginnings of MAGA were the greed and the power mongering that's a part of human nature, unfortunately, because of damaged faith and love. And ask Sapolsky for the rest of that story. We have a problem today where democracy itself is threatened. And it's because of this disease, of the spiritual disease. You notice that, well, if you will take a good look at some of the things that the MAGA leading groups will say, there's a lack of objectivity, there's a lack of creativity, looking at things from different points of view, respectfully. And there's a lack of compassion, expanded compassion. My country, only my country. Me, only me. My family, only my family. My skin tone, only my skin tone. It's silly sounding. Well, that's what racism is. It's both silly and sick. And there's a form of that within this disease. Yeah. So hurting people tend to be more selfish. So that shouldn't be surprising. And that blocks empathy because you're wrapped up in yourself and your pain, but you're not realizing that that pain is attached to past need. And so you are symbolically reacting to harm that was done to you in the past. In other words, blaming other people, generalizing uh, and symbolizing your attack strategy to something that's already passed and done. And looking for symbols of the need. A lot of times it's an escape to some felt more glorified past in your life. You see elements of that in the MAGA movement. What's fascinating is that the lack of, but understandable, the lack of cohesion in their own views, because they're symbolic and not real. They're fantasies. So, this is how did it take over the Republican Party? The Republican Party some time ago saw that the Democratic Party was winning a lot of elections. And they didn't like it. So they said, how can we win more elections? And they started appealing to the racism in the South. Well, why would they do that? And that was successful in their becoming a non-Lincoln, non-evil Democratic, well, I'm getting a little, hang on a minute, I'm sounding like Trump. Well, I won't. Yep, has an effect, I suppose, in some of us. Anyway, the we were discussing, not really discussing, were we? Find that out in the comments if any occur. But I was stating that things that have to do with the origins of the MAGA movement and its takeover of the Republican Party. The Democratic Party used to be the more evil party in some ways in terms of racism. And in order to get those votes, the Republican Party started trying to appeal to the racism South. And that they were successful. And they started winning election after election in the former Confederate States and in other more rural areas that might have been too insular to appreciate the diversity of humanity. That kind of selfishness that's involved with this illness, this lack of empathy, it's because people are hurting. And it's, the thing is, the things that, the hurt that's in these folks as in their symbolic acting out against phony boogeymen. That's their conspiratorial kind of conjectures. This bizarre, expanded boogeyman of possibly relating to mistreatment by a relative, perhaps. And now it's the evil Democratic Party that are actually reptiles in disguise, things like that. That's where this downward trend began, with the embracing of the racism in the South by the Republican Party. But that's not all. The Republican Party is the more business party of the two business parties. And businesses, when they're sick, when trade is not fair, monopolies occur, and that damages democracy. But it has a lot of pull, like gravity. So it's expensive to go and run an election, and so rich people are catered to, and we have some legal monopolies existing. They are the biggest beneficiary of government handouts that you've ever heard of. But how do you divert people from seeing that consequence of greed and lack of empathy with the people? Well, the way you see that is to blame poor people for their poverty. And to say, well, obviously, this person over here is just not hardworking enough. And maybe the door has been shut in their face by all kinds of agencies and groups, and eventually, if you keep damaging a group of people, they start to manifest that damage, and then you can look at the damage and you can go, see, I was right, these people are inferior. Well, sorry, doesn't work like that. People are pretty much the same. Some are hurting. People in MAGA are hurting people. We need to cure that disease, and we better do it fast. If Trump gets reelected, we've got a major problem. All right. I'm trying to make this flow. I'm not a professional speaker, so hang with me. Now and then you'll hear me say something that resonates with you, makes sense. So even a babbling idiot gets something right now and then. Maybe even Trump. I haven't seen much. Anyway, so if you've got a party that's serving the super wealthy, who's going to vote for you? I mean, they're serving them to the exclusion of fair trade, and helpful trade, which is the only fair trade there is. The trade that actually lifts people from poverty. Anyway, who's going to vote for you? People who are uneducated, not paying attention, working too hard to notice. People that you convince are just a little better than somebody else. Is something that President Johnson said once. It was hard to get people to donate to a campaign. But if you tell them they're just a little bit better than the other guys, They'll empty their pockets. Yeah, yeah. Interesting comment. That's a paraphrase. Somebody can look that up and see what he actually said, okay? But it was close. Now, I'll bet my limit of $1. Well, pay it to it, I know, to myself. With a warning. Anyway, but yeah, where's that going to go? And then you add racism to the picture. You know, you're just a little bit better than people with a different skin tone. Really? Oh, wow. How about my big ears and big ears, my big nose? Pointing to the wrong one. Big ears and big nose. Does that make me just a little bit better than people with smaller noses and smaller ears? You know, skin tone, you know, place of origin, the religion you were raised in. Really? Really? You know, but empathy embraces the differences better and brings the people together better. And that's the glue that makes democracy work. If you get rid of empathy, you get rid of democracy. You get rid of fair trade, helpful trade. Best of all, fair trade. The only fair trade. Yeah. Give to those who can't give back. You know? Yeah. Jesus said something about that. Right? Yeah. Bless those who curse you. Give to those who spitefully use you. Something like that. Anyway, again, close. Maybe no prize, but close. Um, and so, if we want to preserve our democracy, we have to expand our empathy. And that's possible. Empathy is a thing that we get socialized into, and so and let's consider that. How can we do that? Well, in debates, for instance, um, instead of looking at who wins a debate, instead of having two opposing candidates do the debate, suppose you have two supportive groups of one candidate or the other, and particular ways of approach. Um, arguing for and against choosing a particular candidate, and the people doing the argument should switch sides and argue from the other side. Oh, I can't do that. Or you can. Just move to the other side and make the best argument you can, and then go to the other side and make your best argument. The goal should be in any debate to find out what the truth is, or something closer than what we had before. And if that doesn't create quite so much animosity, keeps people from seeing it as an us-them kind of picture. And instead, it helps people to come together in a common search. Gee, what might be the best answer? Maybe the best answer we come up with is neither of us know. Yeah. I've won debates before with people, and come to find out we were missing a fact or two. And because of that, had we had those facts, The other person would have won and I would have lost. So humility has a lot to do with expanding empathy and preserving our democracy. So if you see people running around bragging, it's kind of a bad sign, you know. And just demonstrate your empathy. People will notice, you know. Do the best you can with your reasoning and so on. Some people will notice, but it can be a sickness so great that almost any objectivity, almost any creativity of thought, almost any compassion beyond self, comfortable circumstances, uh, is painful. So the practice of inner mind communication is to expand your comfort zone so as to embrace a greater amount of objectivity, creativity, and compassion. That will preserve our democracy. And shout out to Joe. You're doing a good job. And let's hope that we can get past this disease that has infected and taken over one of our major parties, one of our only two really major parties. That's scary, people. You can't allow that to happen. So we have to move away from the disease and increase those things. And you can expect defensive reactions from people in pain when you are the kind of pain that's involved with learned helplessness around needs and feelings because of trauma, which is damaged faith and love of one sort or another, right? Yeah. That will cut into their symbolic defenses around pain that once, or anxiety pain that was once too great to cope with helplessness. And to the degree that person was helpless at that time, so on, to the degree that trauma was impacting. And so what are your decisions? What will you do today to make this country better, the United States, and any country you're in? What will you do today to increase empathy in the world? Well, I hope that part of that plan involves the practices of inner mind communication, which can be very powerful. And, with that, let me, well, don't vote for Trump. That's one thing you can do. And do vote for the lesser of evils. If one's going to cut your whole foot off and the other's just going to take your toe, wouldn't you rather just lose your toe? You know? So make sure, if it's just lesser of evils, my friends, the lesser is even more important to vote. If you only have the two choices. And if the other choice can't win the election, come on. Yeah. Rome wasn't built in a day. vote for the lesser until the greater can't get a vote. And the lesser evil wins. And understand that the lesser evil is also the greater good. Compare things to real things. Real choices. What are your real choices? You have one party or the other. What are you going to vote for? The Republican Party is no longer the Party of Lincoln. It's the MAGA Party. They need to learn a lesson. Don't vote for them. Vote for the lesser of evils. Which is also the greater of goods. The Democratic Party. Rah rah. Anyway, as I like to say at the end of my presentations, a word that means all that is wondrous and good and enlightened and embracing of the universe and one with the universe. Honors person you greet. That word is namaste. So, namaste, y'all, and have a good day.